It's tea time on the 23rd of November 1963, and families across Britain are settling down for a moment in TV history. It's the first episode of a new BBC science fiction programme for children. The story starts with two school teachers who are concerned about one of their pupils, a strange teenager called Susan Foreman. So they've followed her home, but at her address all they find is a junkyard with a familiar object in an unfamiliar place.
What, it's a police box. What on earth's it doing here? I feel it.
It's a faint vibration.
It's alive.
But before they can explain why the police telephone box is vibrating, the pair come across a mysterious old man.
What do you want?
One of our pupils, Susan Foreman, came into this yard.
Why were you spying on her? Who are you?
What's he doing out there?
She is in there!
Close the door!
Forcing their way into the box, the teachers find their pupil Susan, but discover that the police box is inexplicably bigger on the inside.
It was a police telephone box. I walked all round it.
Oh, you wouldn't understand.
But I want to understand.
The TARDIS can go anywhere. TARDIS? I don't understand you, Susan.
Because there is more to Susan and her grandfather than meets the eye.
I was born in another time, another world.
Susan and I are cut off from our own planet, without friends or protection. But one day, we shall get back.
Let's get out of here.
It's no use, you can't get out. He won't let you go. I can't touch it, it's live!
But while on screen the Doctor and his companions were travelling through space and time, the actors playing them at the BBC's London studios had rather more practical problems on their minds.
We started off in Lime Grove, which was a very rickety old studio. It was very difficult to perform in because it got terribly, terribly hot. And as there was terribly little studio space, we had to try and clamber over the cables and not fall over the cameras or the cables on our way to another set.
Actress Carole Ann Ford is playing the role of Susan, the girl the teachers were looking for, and the mysterious doctor's granddaughter.
The sets were very, very wobbly. The doors opened and closed when we didn't want them to open and close. In fact, the set of the TARDIS interior was so muslin thin that you could literally punch it. You could punch your hand through it.
And the filming of the first episode the day before transmission was also overshadowed by an international tragedy, the assassination of American President John F. Kennedy.
I was standing waiting for the lift to come down, and somebody rushed up and said to me, "Did you know President Kennedy's been shot? He's probably dead." And going up, having just heard that, it was the first thing everybody said when they saw each other, not how do you think about doing the show, but what do you think about President Kennedy? I think we were shaking, all of us. How we ever remembered our lines, I do not know.
From those shaky beginnings, Doctor Who would go on to become one of the best-loved TV programmes in history. It's now famous for the richly textured fantasy world in which it takes place, known to fans as the Whoniverse. But in those early days, Carole Ann Ford and William Hartnell as the Doctor were left to improvise.
We got together on the first day and said, have you been given any idea about what we're supposed to do? No. Oh, OK, well, let's make it up, And we decided where we'd come from, why we'd come from there. We decided he was a Time Lord and that he had obviously done something which offended them terribly, the other Time Lords, maybe even to the extent that they wanted to kill him. It was imperative that he leave the planet. And we imagined that his granddaughter was rushing after him to try and get him to stop doing this, and that they were being chased by Time Lord officials or gunmen even, and to keep her safe he dragged her inside the ship with him and off they went.
Film was expensive, which meant that each episode had to be shot straight through from beginning to end, with only a few chances on each programme to go back and correct mistakes. This was particularly hard for William Hartnell, who was in the early stages of arteriosclerosis and became infamous on set for the moments when he muddled his lines.
Classic one is when he refers to the fault locator, which was a big bank of machines at the back of the TARDIS, and something was going wrong in the TARDIS, and Bill had to say to me, Susan, the fault locator, and my job to run off and see what was wrong, only he said, the fornicator.
Despite playing the role of 15-year-old Susan, the unearthly child, Carole Ann Ford was in fact already 23 with a husband and baby, but the line between fiction and reality was sometimes blurred.
William Hartnell did actually treat me very much as if I was his granddaughter and was looking out for me the whole time, including telling me quite definitely I should not be drinking at all. And what was I drinking? It's a champagne cocktail, actually, Bill. A what? How dare you drink champagne cocktail at your age? That's a terrible example to other girls. You mustn't do that sort of thing.
And being treated like a 15-year-old wasn't Carole Ann Ford's only issue on the show. She was also disappointed with the way her part was written.
I was a little bit miffed because I had been asked if I would be happy to do a very physical character, a sort of touch of the Avengers and a bit of martial art type thing, which I was very happy to do at the time because I was a trained dancer and acrobat and I could have done anything they wanted very, very happily. And none of that happened. Absolutely none.
But Doctor Who was an instant hit.
Almost immediately after the first or second one, I was in a position where I couldn't just go out and get my bottle of milk or my loaf of bread from the corner shop. I was leapt upon immediately. People immediately were leaping on me, recognising me. But there was nothing like it. And of course we had a wonderful slot in between the football and jukebox jury.
What was it like for you as someone who had wanted to be more of a character actor to suddenly find yourself quite so famous?
I wasn't crazy about it, to say the least. No, I was not crazy about it.
And so you left the show about 18 months later.
Yeah.
Why was that?
If I could have done, I would have left it very much earlier, mainly because my character was not developed at all. I loved doing it because I loved the people I was working with. I loved everybody. The four of us were like a family. But every week I was hoping and praying this would be the week when I was a bit feistier, when I was not going to be the one who was going to be screaming her head off as soon as she saw a monster. When you think about it, if we had been travelling around for God knows how many years to all sorts of planets, meeting all sorts of weird, peculiar people, by now she would have got used to it. But instead it was just, and I did complain, and I still do complain. It's only now you get the lovely feisty. I mean, it started with Billy, didn't it? And they're all doing it now. You know, they stand up to everybody and they've got their own words, you know, to say about situations and don't defer immediately to the doctor. I mean, I think it's wonderful. I would love to be one of them now if only you could turn the clock back. They're very lucky.
Did you have any idea that it would go on to be such a big deal now?
No, could we possibly? Absolutely not. Mind you, Bill did. I mean, I don't even think in his wildest dreams he would have thought 50 years. But Bill always said, this will go on forever. It will run and run and run. How right he was.
Carole Ann Ford is still working as an actress. Doctor Who went on to become the longest-running science fiction programme of all time. The 50th anniversary episode will be broadcast around the world this weekend.